welcome to this new analysis on the tactical square. I'm going to talk today about the match between Qatar and Saudi Arabia in the Asian Cup, where we saw that Felix Sanchez gave a big lesson to all the coaches. He gave a big lesson. Why that? Because as you know, he started to play with the build-up. I call this team of Qatar the Man City of Asia. Why the Man City of Asia? Because of its fullback. If you see, the Pedro is a little bit like Walker, doesn't involve a lot. They always keep this shape of three. And Abdul Karim Hassan is Mendy, and you have Al Ali as a left back who looks like a little bit who goes inside in the half space, and he do the job of Delft. So I call this team of Qatar the Man City of Asia. And why he gave a big lesson? Because he played the build up. And this match of Saudi Arabia, he led the ball to Saudi Arabia. This shows us that I masterize the style of the build-up. I know how to play the build-up, and I know how to beat myself. How can I beat myself? And today, Felix Sanchez knew exactly how to beat beat Saudi Arabia. Yesterday, sorry, because the match was yesterday. So he knew how to beat this team of Saudi Arabia, implementing a back five. As you can see, he plays with a back 5-5-3-2, or sometimes it's changed to more a shape of 3-4-2-1, but this wasn't a lot. He plays more with Akram Afif inside for some counter-attacking purposes, and with Muaz Ali as a free striker here, turning around in the counter-attacking phase. But when Qatar had the ball, of course Akram Afif would be a little bit outside, and Muaz inside. Against the shape of 4-3-3 from Saudi Arabia, I will focus more on this team of Qatar, like the previous analysis that I did on the match Qatar versus Lebanon. So Saad Shib, Pedro, Bassam, Boualam, Tariq Salman, Abdul Karim Hassan, Haidous, who is playing more in the midfield between the right side and helping also inside Madibu and Hatem, but also Akram Afif and Muaz Ali. So this team of Qatar, what they did, we will enter in the tactical analysis. Now, sometimes the weakness of this team was the left side. I will show why. Sometimes they were letting Saudi Arabia in 2v1, on this left side of Abdul Karim Hassan, or here more inside on the pocket just behind Hatem, because Hatem was involving outside also. We will explain that how. So Muaz and Akram not getting outside that much. Muaz and Akram. A V shape from Saudi Arabia at the beginning, and what they were doing in the build-up, the center back split at the edge of the box, and you have here the center midfielder who was coming between them to do the overload against those two, but a high fullbacks at the imaginary line with the two center midfielders. So even Saudi Arabia, their rotation weren't good. But you will see that the links weren't always good. But what interests me here is this team of Qatar always keeping their shape going outside. Sometimes it was easy to break their lines because they were very high and the distances weren't respected, like what I will show. For example, because Akram is far away, because Akram is on the center back, and because he have to close the midfield, so who goes outside? Hatem. So if Hatem goes outside, sometimes he was going outside with the center back and sometimes with the right back. What this involves us? This will involve us that Karim will join also. Karim have to cover another player, and you have in this space behind Karim and between Madibo and Karim and Hatem, in this space, in the half space, you have the chance to do the superiority, and the right back can take the flank here and can cross. We saw that the right back many times were in the side of Abdul Karim Hassan in 2v1. Many times Tariq Salman went outside. So this was problematic for me when the distances weren't respected. When the distances were respected, like for example when Haydus were outside and Hatem joined inside, or when Hatem goes outside and Haydus helped Madibu with Abdul Karim Hassan, because the rotation of Saudi Arabia was a little bit late in the run. So Qatar managed to really draw their pressing and managed to have the superiority on Qatar. What they were trying also Saudi Arabia to do is also to free to get a centre back outside, whether it's Bassam or Tariq Salman. That's why we saw that Boualam did well sometimes in covering the spaces of Bassam and Tariq Salman. Why that? Because sometimes they were playing with they were doing the strategy of the third player. So Saudi Arabia tried to do the strategy of the third player by doing what? I will show you. The winger is inside. The winger is inside. The other winger is inside. Here the other winger is inside with the striker. And sometimes they played with the L shape. So one of the center midfielder is like the winger going outside, and one of the center midfielders try to come here and to try to profit from the space, of course, with the fullbacks joining. This weren't working always. Qatar, we saw that despite the fact that they played with a 5, they played with a flat shape. This allowed Qatar to win more offsides, and they had offsides. So Qatar had more offside. Saudi Arabia was trapped in the offside of Qatar, and this allowed Qatar to not have too much trouble. So for me, the weakness was when Hatem joined and when Al Haydous joined. The weakness is when Al Haydous joined outside and then they were in cover. Qatar was overloaded by Saudi Arabia sometimes, but because their transmissions of the ball weren't that good and their rotations weren't that good, that's why Qatar managed to do good. And also don't forget that this shape of 5 allowed Qatar to have the superiority, of course. So with the Hatem, with Al Haydous, of course. And now I will talk about the second half. The second half, Qatar did really well into protecting their spaces. Qatar did really well into protecting their spaces, and they did well in also not giving Saudi Arabia the chance to do good and to install their transmissions. How they did this? Now Qatar played a little bit deeper in the midfield. They played a little bit deeper, and Saudi Arabia kept this shape of L shape. Now they weren't anymore about the V shape, they were more about the L shape. But it was, for me, a dying position. Why this? Because Akram Afif and Muaz Ali were always pressing those two. And the addition now is that Karim was doing a shape of 4. So Qatar was inside here with the fullback to fullback. And this allowed Qatar, as you can see here, to have the superiority. The other center midfielder was very far. The fullbacks, we didn't hear of them anymore, or not that much. And the wingers, they tried to do the job of the rotation of one trying to call out, to take out Bassam, one tried to take out Ali, but they are very far away. That the synergy wasn't working. The synergy, the cohesion between the lines weren't working. Why? Because they were far away. And Qatar played a little bit deeper. Yes, now they played deeper. But as you can see, if Karim Hassan is on the fullback, that means that we can see the fullbacks, and he is protected by his teammates. We have 3, and Pedro can come out. Or from the other side, Muaz was doing the job also to to cover him. So always keeping this superiority of 4. So this line of 4 allowed Qatar, Muaz Ali, who was doing a great job, Madibu also, who was covering Haidous. So this superiority of Qatar allowed Qatar to have the ball, allowed Abdul Karim Hassan to always find Akram Afif in the transitional. He was a key player in the transitions. Same thing from Madibu or El Haidous, always finding Muaz Ali giving time on the ball, protecting the ball, redirecting the game. Those things allowed Qatar to win the match. And those things didn't allow Saudi Arabia to develop their game. So that's why I said that this is a big lesson, especially here in the midfield with this thing of Abdul Karim Hassan. The changes of Saudi Arabia tried to play with another second striker, playing around the striker. This just gave the gap of more. This increased the gap between the players. And Qatar, always someone fresh, like Boudiaf. We saw that El Haidous when he went out, and Boudiaf gave an amazing touch on the transition, an amazing technical touch. I can talk about everyone. Boualem did well. Qatar, yes, when they were playing with a high line sometimes, like in the 21st minutes of the first half, it was dangerous. This was dangerous. But since that, Qatar did well into protecting their spaces. They all fought and for this match, and I have to give a big credit for Felix Sanchez for all what he did, and to the players. And it was a great lesson, just like I said. So I hope that this team of Qatar will go far away. The next match is against Saudi Arabia. I hope that we will against Iraq. The next match is gonna be really difficult and very high intensity. But this team of Qatar, playing with 5, playing with 4-1-4-1, playing with 4-2-3-1. This team of Qatar is unexpected and doing good in all the strategies. So a big credit also to all the coaches that has been working with them since a young age. We will forget now about the match because I finished my analysis. I hope that this analysis was good for you. Give me your feedback. Share it on Facebook. Share it on Instagram. Share it on Twitter. Share it wherever you want. And it was with you, Amin Amor, certified coach from the UEFA. And thank you very much for watching this on the Tactical Square, where it's not only about squares, it's also about triangles, circles, hexagons, etc. etc. Thank you very much.